I might just do it like this.
That's really going to mess up all Dave's.
Oh no, it's okay. It should be
To get
okay.
you to look good, and
I'm just trying to make sure that it's on. I don't know if it's on. Can someone go check?
Yeah, it just said waiting when I last looked.
Yeah, it says starting soon on mine now.
Oh yeah, no, it's working. It's working.
Yeah, no, it is working.
All right, I'll play the music because I know you guys have been without the music for like 2 whole weeks.
Oh god, yeah, we've missed it. We've missed it definitely.
Jimmy, one job.
I know. I listened back to them. They didn't sound that bad. I don't know what the problem was.
The problem was that I published the wrong one at first.
We've all been there, to be fair.
Is it just my audio that went out?
Yeah, yeah, he's just on it.
It's just lots of heavy breathing.
Oh, Jesus Christ. What was this? Was it when you're conceiving, was it?
Just some squelching noises and some heavy breathing. It's weird.
Right, James, go. We're live.
We're live. We're going.
Yeah, say hello.
Okay, hello. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 10 of the Fantasy Weekly podcast brought to you by Footstock.com. Very special episode in that we are all here live in Technicolor HD. Is it HD, Dave? It might not be HD.
It better be.
HD on my webcam, anyway. Thank you so much for joining us if you're live. If you are not joining us live, don't worry. We'll be releasing this as a pod, which you'll be listening to, so you'll know that already. There's no need for me to say that. It's post-game week 5. It's pre-game week 6. We are late on this, mostly because I was camping in the Peak District for the last 3 days. Completely forgot to inform anyone. Had no signal. Couldn't tweet out about it. My apologies. We are here now, though. And I am joined, of course, by the panel. David Kerr, a.k.a. FPL_Dave, returns to the fold. Dave, how are you doing? Great game week for you to return. Coincidence?
Yeah, I'm going to leave for a couple of weeks when I do bad, and then when I do good, I can come in and I can miss all the grudge matches, which is always fun.
Genius.
No, I was struggling, to be honest, with personal stuff. It had nothing to do with EPL. And then I decided to take a wee break from like Twitter and stuff, and I went on like an impromptu holiday and started climbing a lot of hills, really finding myself, James. And then when I came back, I was on 86 points. So thumbs up. How was your guys' weeks?
It shows what you can do with a little bit of wildlife. I tried that with the camping, but
yeah.
I don't feel like it's going to have the same impact, to be honest with you. It's great to have you back, Dave. And thank you for hosting us on your YouTube channel as well. We appreciate that at late notice. 86 points, impressive. You have jumped from, at one point last in the Fantasy Weekly Panelists League, to now top of the league.
Woo!
The first time that I have been knocked off my pedestal. I'm gutted. I'm in second place. In third place, not Holly Shand, Mr. Ben Dinner. Ben, how you doing? You must be over the moon.
I too have been camping and climbing during the international break, and that obviously reflective of my 73-point score. Extremely happy. More happy the fact that I'm not bottom of this little mini league for the first time since it ever began in the project restart. So
73 points, congratulations. Have we cracked FPL? Is it just that you need to get outdoors a little bit more? Because a lot of FPL managers are going to struggle.
We've always said it's overthinking, right? So you just stop thinking. Just go outside.
True.
Do your transfers when you get home at 9 p.m. like the night before.
Yeah.
Easy peasy.
Yeah. Level on points with Ben Dinnery, though. Ben's only third by technicality is Holly Shand. Holly, 68 points for you, I believe. How are you getting on? How are you feeling about that?
I'm slightly worried that I'm not beating the dinner rate, but at least he's not got more points than me at the moment. But it is a worry. I mean, I am on this video now from bed, and this is obviously where things are going wrong for me. I need to be outside with the fresh air. But I felt like game week 5 went well for me after a tough few weeks until I checked my overall rank and the mini league, and then I realised that maybe everyone else was still having a better week than me. But luckily, I finally managed to get in Son and Calvert-Lewin, and some helpful information and press conferences really helped me going into game week 5. So it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, they both returned for you on their debut performances. Lovely to see. Bruno Fernandes as well, registering 2 returns despite missing a penalty. I was also in the missed penalty club, having Mitrovic, who apparently had one of the worst games any Premier League player has had in recent memory. Conceded a penalty, missed a penalty, and apparently missed a couple of sitters as well. So he's on thin ice for me. Promising, perhaps. I don't know. We're not going to talk about Mitrovic much today because there are far more pressing matters to get onto. Starting with...
Who's clicking? Sorry, who's clicking? Who's doing that?
I think it's Ben.
Ben Rapid.
Yeah, it's
Ben.
me.
You
on your
listen
hands,
to
Ben.
you listen to Superstition. Just sorry. On you go, Virgil van Dijk.
Yes, Virgil van Dijk. Virgil van Dijk is injured. Firstly, I want to come to Mr. Click, Ben Dinnery, to find out the extent of his injury. How long is he going to be out for? Do we think at this early stage? And then we're going to talk about the implications of that absence. So, Ben, what are we saying?
In terms of a timeline, won't be. I'll put it on the line now. He will not be back this season. I'll categorically state this for the record.
Wow.
I would say there's absolutely no chance. If we're talking about a return to play for a straightforward ACL injury, and by that what we mean is no secondary damage to any other ligaments within the joint, any other issues, straightforward rehab, we're looking at 6 months at best. We know, or there's certainly even the Liverpool website have indicated that there's ligament damage, mechanism of injury, which means how that occurred in the tackle from Jordan Pickford suggests that there could be damage to the medial collateral ligament, potentially some damage there to the posterior cruciate ligament. Again, all unofficial and unconfirmed, but David Ornstein did put something out on Wednesday saying that, that may be reflective of the fact that, there are other things going on there within the joint, potentially some meniscus damage. I did post some comparisons out there with the Ben Mee tackle on Wesley. And, as we know, Wesley is probably going to be out until early 2021. So we're looking at least 12 months on the sidelines for that. But what I would say is, like I say, each player does respond differently to treatment. It will depend on what kind of surgery they go to, even down to the surgery itself. But, I'm fairly confident that Van Dijk will not be back this season, and at best we'd be looking at the beginning of 2021, 2022.
How many people have tinkered Trent Alexander-Arnold out of their team just to see what they could do with the money so far? I'm assuming everyone.
I'd imagine a great deal. And actually, Dave, that takes us nicely onto the question I was just about to ask you, which is, what does this mean for the rest of Liverpool's once popular defensive assets?
I think it actually means that Robertson's going to have to start doing some defending. I think Van Dijk was the reason why he was bombing, looking great going forward, getting in the box way more than Trent, which was weird. We figured that, they'd both be doing well, but it seems like Robertson's kind of leading the pack of the premium defenders. But I think because of this big injury, I think, first of all, we're not going to see as many clean sheets. We weren't seeing much anyway, but I feel like we're going to see a bit less. I also think that it means that Trent's corners and free kicks, they're aiming for Van Dijk. Van Dijk is the header in the box. He's a very strong presence with set pieces, and now that he's gone, I think we're going to have less attacking returns for those corners. And then finally, I think it means that, like I said, those bombing up the pitch days are over for that side on Robertson's side. But I don't know. I think maybe they could just go, oh, fuck it. You know what? We've lost our best defender. Let's just outscore the other team, and they just go mental. And in that case, we all have Trent and Robertson because they're pretty much midfielders anyway. So, you still want them for their attacking stuff. So I don't think they're going to go anywhere for me. But yeah, I could totally see what happens if, like, you don't have Kane or you don't have Son, you need the money and just get rid of Trent. It's so easy, but
So you're keeping Trent then?
Yeah, I'm keeping him because I've got other things to do. And it's really difficult to find a team that doesn't have other things to do. But if you don't have anything else to do, screw it. There's loads of different teams and different players that have similar defensive woes that you could jump onto.
Sheffield United next is a pretty good reason to keep hold of your Liverpool defensive assets, I think, even if just for another week. Yeah. Holly, what about Liverpool's prospects in general? You very boldly and passionately made a case for Aston Villa winning the Premier League a couple of episodes ago. That prediction looking better and better every single week.
Well, obviously, I mean, they're unbeaten. The only side that are unbeaten so far, so get your money on.
Well, Everton also unbeaten, of course, but have dropped points.
Yeah, that's
still yet to drop a point. But Liverpool, of course, might have been Villa's biggest contenders for this season's Premier League title. Would you say the same now that Van Dijk's out?
Well, it's going to provide a major dent in their confidence, isn't it? And, you know, I am a little bit worried now. I think Salah and Mane will still be excellent fantasy assets this season, despite what's going on behind them. But, you know, I wouldn't be confident that Liverpool can retain the league now as well, especially seeing as they've lost. They dropped 3 points to Aston Villa, then they dropped another 2 points to Everton. Like, momentum's just not on their side at the moment. And then having those two significant defensive injuries as well, you know, really doesn't help them at the moment.
They were very unfortunate to lose that game against Everton, though, weren't they? I didn't want this to be about VAR, but we must acknowledge the ludicrousness under the circumstances in which Liverpool lost that match. It was kind of crazy, a bit of a shame, I think. But entertaining nonetheless, of course. Those of you who are tuning in retrospectively will be missing out on Ben Dinnery's commitment to changing his Skype background, depending on the topic that we're talking about. He's currently got Virgil van Dijk right behind him, just above his shoulder like a parrot. And I hope, Ben, that you're going to maintain this throughout the live stream. A little treat for those of you who have tuned in live.
I'll certainly try.
Yeah,
as long as I don't talk about David McQuarrie next up.
I don't know who that is.
You don't want him standing behind you. Let's just put it that way.
Okay.
I said David McQuarrie, not Justin Fashanu. Oh.
Let's move on incredibly quickly from and talk about Kane and Son.
Yes, let's talk about them. Let's do it. I'm ready.
That would have gone from the main part, to make that clear. Kane and Son, another scintillating performance from the two of them, at least for the first 15 minutes against West Ham. What a game, by the way. Let's just stop to acknowledge the quality of that football match. We're seeing so many great matches this season. It is a joy. Kane and Son once again looked at their absolute best, particularly Harry Kane, who came away with 16 points. Dave, I'm going to come to you first here because I know you're chomping at the bit to talk about Harry Kane. You captained him, didn't you?
I was very upset before the game started because I got rid of Werner and he got 2 goals and an assist. And then after the game, Kane got 2 goals and assists. So it was a net, zero balance. But I also took out KDB for Son and that went well. So I'm quite happy with it. I think there's no reason to not have them. I can't think of a single reason not to have them. They're in form, they have the fixtures, they look like they're gelling well. Bale's back, which means the uselessness that is their right wing is now going to be useful again. I know he did miss a sitter, but he hasn't played in 18 years or something, so just leave him alone. Kane's looking phenomenal, the best he's ever been, I think, in terms of all the numbers and the stats. You can track anyone right now that is listening, chuck me a reason not to have Kane, and I'll disagree. It's just they're too good at the moment, and I totally retract my game week 1 statement of I'm not going to have them for the rest of the season because I've got them both now.
Ben, you do have Kane, who you very wisely captained in game week 5 along with Dave. You don't have Son, however, and you've also got Aubameyang in that midfield. Are you eyeing up that transfer?
Well, I've had excuse me, James.
Sorry.
Excuse me. I've had Kane in since the very beginning, since week 1. So very happy with that. Glad I kept faith after a disappointing opening match against Everton. There's one player who I feel who's stuck in his squad at this moment in time. I've actually had 2 transfers this week, I've left Aubameyang in. And Aubameyang to Son and extra change would be an obvious switch. But I'm obviously not prepared to be taking any hits at this precise moment in time. So I've had other fires to put out elsewhere. Yeah. Richarlison being one of those. Obviously starts a 3 game ban, so he had to go straight away. And I needed to do a little bit of rejigging elsewhere to free up some funds to bring in players that I wanted. I feel as if I've missed a boat on Son somewhat. And you know me, I'm never one. I like to go against the tide a little bit. And jumping on Son at this moment in time, I can see it. It's the same with DCL. For me, I feel as if I've just missed that boat a little bit, as I did with Fernandes, last season. And once I've missed those few game weeks, I don't know if I just want to be caught up. And I'm trying to find the next Son to come along and hopefully deliver.
He's a visionary. Is Mr. Zendinary.
It looks like Kane is just humping your back.
Yeah, it's Zendinery.
Yeah, Zendinery.
Oh, are you okay? Have we lost you?
No, I'm here. It's just my camera decided to mess up, but I think it's back.
All right, we're back. We're back.
There she is. Holly, let's come to you because you are, like me, Kaneless, but you have Son. Is Kane top of your list now?
Yes, he's probably going to come in this week. It's going to take a -4, but I feel like the underlying stats for him are so good. I mean, we mentioned last week, didn't we, the fact that he can get goals and he's getting assists as well at the moment, and that's something that I want to have in my FPL side. So with the fixtures as well, it just feels like a no-brainer at the moment to get him back in.
Yeah, Burnley on Monday, pretty good given how poor Burnley have been. Would you say at this point, I mean, I'm getting from the panel here, correct me if I'm wrong, that the two potentially are essential? Is that fair?
I think Kane has to be the priority. I think with Bale coming in, I don't think that will dent Kane's output, but it could potentially dent Son's output. So
someone asked in the chat if Bale takes pens off of Kane.
Not a chance.
Not a chance. All right, just wanted to cover it.
But you look at the ownership, and it's Son that's got the higher ownership. But I thought about captaining him last week, but I didn't really trust him with the armband. Whereas Kane, you can easily captain any game week. So even though Kane's got the lower ownership at the moment, I think if you didn't have either and you could only have one, I would go with Kane. I don't think Son on his own is valuable enough, whereas Kane can be. But, having two just seems like a bit of a no-brainer for me at the moment.
Interesting. And when we get to captain discussion, we'll be talking about those two as well, because the next question, if you do own them both, becomes, well, which one do you captain week to week? The two seem to be almost taking it in terms of who gets the biggest game week scores. So that'll be an interesting one. That'll be for the end of the pod. Dave, let's talk about a player you've already mentioned, Werner, who, of course, scored 2 goals and got an assist in what was an incredibly composed performance, I think it's fair to say, against Southampton. He played fantastically well, showed us what he can do. Do we feel as though the tide is turning a little bit in that Chelsea side?
Yeah, well, we suspected that they were going to do really, really well out of the gate, and it took them a little while to get going. But I feel like, as we all know, they had so many different injuries. They were playing a B team for most positions, but Pulisic is back. Havertz seems to be playing well. Although Pulisic was playing on the right, I just can't get over how dumb Lampard is sometimes. He just loves Mount. He's got a raging hard-on for Mount. I just don't think he's that good. But yeah,
he's got a Mount for Mount.
He's got exactly, and but. Of all the things that he's done well, it's moving Werner back up to striker position because you've just seen what he can do. Annoyingly, I took him out for Kane, which, like I said, was a 0 overall. But I really brought in Werner on my wildcard because of the Southampton game, and I really wanted to keep him in, but I just felt like Kane has the better fixtures, and I won't do it if I don't do it this week, so I did it anyway. But I really like the look of how he's now 9.3, so anyone who didn't have him will get him cheaper. Pulisic is back. They're going to be holding lots of possession now that their main guys are back. The only thing is that their defense is still shocking, and I don't think that is a player reason. I think that's more of like an ineptitude from Lampard's side and some sort of inconsistency that he's not addressing in training or something. Because there was an easy scapegoat in their keeper, because he did make some howlers. But now that their keeper is someone different and they're still having some issues, I don't really know what to make of it. I've got James in my team, and I don't really know what to do.
They look like a very top-heavy side. They look like a side that's going to have to outscore their opponents rather than keep clean sheets. Ben, you are missing Richarlison now. He's going to be gone from your side, I assume, with that 3-game ban. Is Werner on the short list of potential replacements?
He isn't on the short list because he's actually on the list. He's in.
Werner
is in.
What a transfer.
Wow. Okay.
So Werner added to the squad. And also, so I made 2 free transfers this week. And I looked for some City cover in that back line. And I think they looked a little bit improved with the addition of Ruben Dias. I would have preferred to win somebody like Digne, but couldn't afford him. So Ruben Dias at 5.5, I think looks a solid buy. He's going to get game time, which was always the concern under Pep, particularly in that back line. You know, they have got a few injuries, so he is limited, especially again going into this weekend with Ake missing out midweek because of a slight groin issue. So it looks to be Diaz plus either Garcia or Ake if he can pass a late test. Obviously, we've got Mendy out. So yeah, that's my 2 free transfers done and quite happy with that.
Just to point out, you've still got Kane in your background, Ben. It'd be nice if you could change it to Werner.
If you'd stop talking to us, I could actually concentrate.
Before we stop talking to you, I do want to ask you, because there's loads of people that have been asking me, even though I told everyone I wasn't going to be on Twitter, that James Rodriguez is out and for how long, and if we can trust Conte and all that stuff. Like, what's going down?
Right. So the official line from the club. The strap line from Everton was James Rodriguez and Seamus Coleman ruled out. Seamus Coleman tweaked his hamstring in the Merseyside derby for the 2nd consecutive game, so that's probably going to be 2 to 3 weeks out for him, which means basically after the international break. The James Rodriguez came as a bit of a surprise. Ancelotti said that he picked up the injury during the opening exchanges in a mistimed tackle with Virgil van Dijk. He managed to complete 90 minutes in the game. And there's some suggesting he has been on the training pitches this week. Now, reading between the lines, the Ancelotti quote says he thinks James Rodriguez will miss the game. So that's where the two don't sort of quite marry up, which is leading to this, Twitter rumour mill going into overdrive, the Ancelotti main games and so on and so forth. Quite often, when managers are speaking, it's not their first language. It's sometimes difficult. They are misquoted. And this is picked up from Everton TV. So it's not from a pre-match press conference which won't come until Friday.
Right.
My own particular thoughts on this is that, James Rodriguez will miss out. It's not uncommon for players to play through injuries and then suffer reaction post-match. Adrenaline's high. Testosterone is pumping, especially the heat of battle in a Merseyside derby. So for players to come through that and carry a minor niggle and then, not maybe feel something for 24, 48 or even 72 hours after a game certainly isn't unheard of.
Shit, I didn't know that. Cool.
So look, and there's lots of examples of players sort of playing through the pain barrier just to get through that game. What I would say, don't necessarily pull the trigger at this moment in time on Rodriguez if you're not certain, because like I said, Ancelotti will be speaking on Friday afternoon anyway, and he will confirm and clarify those statements that he made on Everton TV anyway.
I think it's interesting that this, like you said, the Twitter rumour mill is going mental. I know loads of people that just put KDB on their bench. So imagine having James Rodriguez, who's doing bits, who's a lot cheaper. It's easier to put him on your bench and then being like, oh, should I transfer him out? I think it's all a bit of a faff for nothing. Holly, what are your plans? Were you thinking about bringing him in anyway?
Yeah, I was probably going to do Foden to Rodriguez for free, and I could have sold Trent to get Kane in for a -8. But obviously now I don't feel like I can bring him in. But it's one of those, like, I'm really like focused on the double ups at the moment, and I only got Calvert-Lewin in last week, and I felt like having just Calvert-Lewin wasn't good enough again. And I do think that there's a bigger upside for Rodriguez without Richarlison in the side, and potentially penalties a part of that as well. But I did think it's very convenient that it was to do with a clash with Van Dijk, and, you know, Pickford's been made the scapegoat this week for the, you know, big Van Dijk injury. Like, could that be a factor there? But I think the issue with the rumour mill circulating on Twitter is just the fact that people haven't got depth on their benches at the moment. And, you know, like, you've got Reece James, who's obviously, you never know if he's going to start or not and can come on for a 1-minute cameo. And I think if you've got Rodriguez, looking at his ownership and looking at his output, like, it's not sounding like he's going to be out for weeks on end. Hopefully it's just this next game that he misses. And in that case, put him on your bench, but, you know, make these upgrades elsewhere where you've got players that, you know, are doubts. I think the difficulty is a lot of us have, you know, got a lot of those 4.5 million defenders that aren't necessarily at the moment having the best fixtures this weekend. Like James Justin, for example, has got Arsenal. Then you've got Walker Peters has got Everton.
Right,
you know,
I gotcha.
Burnley defenders are against Spurs. So, you know, people are looking at benches and thinking, well, I've not got anyone decent to come in. And that's obviously not helping things.
That explains it. James, what do you think?
Oh, I don't think on this podcast. I'm afraid I just facilitate.
All right,
You're
moving
thinking.
on. Ben,
Mark,
what a lovely
Input,
person you've got there.
Mark Sony in the chat says Frank doesn't know what he's doing. He refuses to play his players in their best position. Dave is right. He has to find some way anyway to get Mount in the side. Christopher Guinness says, would you all go in on Chelsea assets this week against the United side that will look to play 5 at the back like they did in their win against PSG? Holly, I'll come back to you here because you haven't had a chance to talk about Chelsea. It's not just Werner who is impressing at the moment, attacking-wise, for Chelsea. It's also the likes of Kai Havertz as well, who's done very well. Pulisic is back in the side too. Is there any temptation for you elsewhere in that side?
Not at the moment, I don't think. And it's just the fixtures as well. Like with Manchester United away this weekend, I don't think it's necessarily the right time to buy. And I think Chelsea are going to be one of those sides that really struggle over the next few weeks because they've got the Champions League to deal with as well. And I don't feel like they're best placed in the Champions League either. Obviously, they didn't win this week, whereas all of the other Premier League sides managed to get a result. So that's something to consider. It does add that extra pressure onto the extra games that are coming. And, you know, it is a lot of travelling, and it's not necessarily players that are used to having those demands of the Champions League that have suddenly got it thrust upon them this season. And I think Manchester United will get the result this weekend. And I think, 5 at the back doesn't sound that appealing, but then you look at that Manchester United squad and they did look improved against PSG. I think that is their optimal formation at the moment. And, you know, Rashford and Fernandes are doing bits at the moment. And I can just see them getting the result in this game.
Oof. Ben, you brought in Werner for this Manchester United game, didn't you? So what's your prediction of the score? Let me hear it.
I mean, I didn't bring in Werner. I'm not considering anything with regards to fixture difficulty at this point in time.
Right.
I've got no interest in that whatsoever. Look, we've seen United lose 6-1 at home to Tottenham, then go to St James's Park and win 4-1. Coincidence that maybe he's dropped Pogba from the side? Maybe not. So I'm just going on form. I think we touched upon it. I think it was last week's pod. The re-emergence or the return of Christian Pulisic would certainly be beneficial to Timo Werner. Yeah. So that was me thinking with regards to him. It wasn't necessarily his performance last weekend. It was the return of Pulisic. And Pulisic is definitely on the radar, but I prefer to see him, maybe after the international break when he's got more minutes in his legs.
Fair play. James, what's up next?
We don't have long, guys, so we're gonna race through the final talking point, which actually was Aston Villa. I wanted to very quickly touch on them. We'll start with you, actually, Dave. Why is it that not every FPL manager owns an Aston Villa defender by now?
because no one prioritizes defensive transfers. When a lot of people use their wild cards, the Aston Villa defense wasn't like well known to be the beast that it is right now. You know, there was still a bit of, oh, well, they've only played 2 games or whatever, but now it's been 4 and they're undefeated. It's a different story. I also think that they've got so many good assets and loads of different price ranges that, like, I'm looking on bringing in Grealish, for example, but if you were looking for a striker, you've got one there. You've got, you know, Barkley or McGinn for the kind of lower tier priced. So, yeah, I think there's just a lot of priorities. Even if you're going to get an Aston Villa player, even the keeper, for example, like Martinez is also a belter of a shout. So yeah, I think the reason why is just there's so much to choose from. People are kind of prioritising their attack.
I've not made a defensive transfer yet, and I haven't played my wild card yet, so I've not had the opportunity, and I've taken 2 or 3 hits already.
Yeah, it's one of those things, right? You just kind of you have to sort your strikers out because you don't want to miss out on the next big thing like DCL or whatever. So I can definitely see people after maybe 5, 6, 7 game weeks start to settle down on their front 3 and start maybe looking at the back. Because for example, I've got James, right, and he hasn't been playing 90 minutes for a while, but I'm doing fucking Traore to Grealish this week because, you know, it's Grealish and they look great and I want a piece of it.
Thank you. Ben Dinnery, in 10 seconds, Yash Dalmia asks in the chat, which Man City asset to buy? I don't have any at the moment.
10 seconds. The safe option, Raheem Sterling.
Okay. Thank you. What's the risky option?
I mean, most of them, really, apart from Aguero, who I think, like I say, it's probably a game or two too soon for him. Although we've seen in the Champions League, you know, he's on penalties, so he's always liable to get one. But he still doesn't look anywhere near fully match fit for me. I'd be slightly concerned. His 3rd start within a week, coming off the back of an injury that kept him sidelined for almost 4 months. But I don't really see how, you know, Pep doesn't really have much option. So I would expect him to start this weekend.
Ben, is KDB back?
He's expected to train today along with Laporte, and providing whether they come through the sessions today and tomorrow without any reactions, then, you know, conceivably they will both be available. You know, despite
Is it Monday night as well, that game? No, it's not. It's Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday. I mean, Pep said on Tuesday that both players were ruled out for a few weeks, and then on Wednesday night said, "Oh, they'll be training tomorrow." Make of that what you will.
Brill, thank you. The correct answer was Phil Foden, but you were very close. Thanks very much for that. Let's quickly we've got 3 minutes left. Let's do captains for game week 6, starting with you, Holly.
Mo Salah is the only captain that I've chosen this season that has delivered for me. Home game against Sheffield United, who have looked poor across the board this season. He's on penalties. Easy decision. Like it. Okay, Mo Salah for Holly. Dave, do you agree?
Yeah, probably Salah's the biggest candidate for this week. But Ben, you tweeted out literally like 20 minutes or something before I started sorting out the live thing that Burnley have a lot of injuries happening, which makes me really like the thought of going with Kane and whatnot. So I'm not sure. Yeah. I'm not 100% on who I want to go with. Is that right? Are they all out?
Well, we've still got a couple of days. We've got Phil Bawsey, who tested positive for COVID-19, so under protocol, he's expected to miss out. Eric Peters picked up a calf injury in the last game. Matt Loughton returns, or he's back in contention, returned to training this week, so he could slot in at right back if needed. So you still got that, you know, that pretty much that solid back four with Taylor, Tarkowski, and the other kid, Kevin Long. Isn't it Kevin Long?
I just think it's interesting that you know, they've got someone who's just back from a really long injury that might have to jump in and play because of another injury, and then, you know, Spurs are
against
on such a good roll against Son, which is a really difficult one. So I really like the look of Kane. The fact that he's again a differential even after this week. I'm probably going to go Salah because, you know, I said at the very start of the season I'm going to just pick really easy home games, but I wish I had the old David to allow me to captain Kane.
Yeah. I mean, if you've got just Kane or just Son, then, you know, you're not, if they bang, then you're not going to see a significant rank change without giving them the armband. But if you have got both, you can probably, you know, think that's enough cover to go with Salah.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, if you own Mohamed Salah and you're not captaining at home to the bottom team in the Premier League, then you have to question why you own him in the first place, I think. Ben Dinnery, who will you be captaining this week? Will it be Werner?
No. I'll be staying away from that one. The obvious choice again is Harry Kane, but I may one last roll of the dice. Aubameyang at home to Leicester. Obviously, Leicester have got a Europa League tie on Thursday night still to play. They are carrying a few injuries as well. We'll find out from tonight's team news. That'll hopefully give us some kind of indication of who Brendan Rodgers is likely to go with on Sunday. Fofana will probably pair Johnny Evans if they both come through that game. But Aubameyang for me, otherwise he's gone.
All right. Thank you very much, Ben. Thank you, panel. That concludes episode 10 of the Fantasy Weekly live stream. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you did tune in live, 41 people watching on a Thursday afternoon is pretty bloody good. So thank you very much. Apologies if we didn't manage to get to your comments and questions. If you're listening retrospectively, thanks again for listening, and sorry about the lateness. Completely my fault. Good luck for episode 6, game week 6. Remember, this podcast is sponsored by footstock.com. Head over there, download the app. Auctions have now launched on footstock.com. It's exciting, it's fun. We're introducing European players as well. You can buy Neymar, Mbappe and the like on there now too. Good time to get involved. Remember, you must be 18 plus, UK based, and begambleaware.org. Holly, Dave, Ben, I hope you all have terrible game weeks. If I have another bad game week, I'm missing next week. I'm saying it now. I will certainly need a breather, I think. But until then, take care, everyone. Thanks for joining us. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.